That is a Ford remanufactured transmission. Pull this aside. Dipstick. Negative battery terminal. Place it aside where it won't come up and contact this. Remove your doghouse. That is the interior console. The cup holder assembly. All this right here comes straight up. You just pull straight up like that. You might have to put a little muscle in it to overcome that bottom clip, but that's it. It just comes straight up. Alright, next is just the doghouse that's left. On each side there's two flapped retainer guides here. Two hinges. Take them out of the little bars here that they go into. Just slide it back. Both sides. Up to the other side here. Pull the carpet back a little. Next, with all the hinges disconnected, you should be able to just pull straight back on the doghouse. And it's out. Go ahead and lift it up and put it away somewhere. See how much that opens up here? Okay, I'm on the passenger side right now. See? Alright, so I've got a drain bucket down there. See? I'm going to go ahead and get these cooler lines loose. Upper and lower one. I've got a 1/2 inch fitting driver here. Fitting wrench. Sorry about the... Okay, so you may also need to get a 19mm wrench and hold the fitting right here on the transmission still. There's a good view of it right there. See the fitting on the transmission? It is rotating along with this, so you need to hold that fitting still. Alright, there you go. I've got a wrench on the fitting right there, and I'm going to hold that still while I break loose the fitting from the cooler line. Upper and lower, both of those lines. That is called a line wrench, by the way. Okay, the upper one is loose. See, I'm just going to take it out by hand the rest of the way. And here we go, almost there. Alright, so go ahead and get your lower one here. Same procedure. Okay, so both cooler lines are loose. See? Alright, now we're going to focus on removing our dipstick tube here. So come up here, pull this oxygen sensor connector off, just like that. And now, you see this bracket here? Follow it over to the back of the cylinder head, and you're going to see a 10mm nut. Remove that nut. Okay. Keep following the dipstick tube up here, and you see that bracket right in the middle of the camera. Underneath that red hose there is a bracket with a 10mm bolt facing straight down on the intake manifold, right in the middle of the camera. Go ahead and remove that bolt, and as a frame of reference I'm going to zoom out on it. There you go. Take that bolt out. Alright, it's out. Alright, now that the dipstick tube is free, you can kind of grab right here, pull straight up out of the transmission. Okay, as you can see, it is popped out. That's the hole straight in the middle there. So make sure your white seal on the bottom is in good condition. Replace it if it's damaged. Next, you can go ahead and remove your upper bell housing bolts that you can access here. There's one over in the corner. See? Right there. And take this one off at the top. This one. And this one. They are 13mm. The ones on the top are going to be shorter. The ones up here. These are going to be longer. I'm going to take this breather tube here and pop it off the transmission. goes onto a little fitting back there. I'm going to focus on this harness here. There's a little retainer that pops down on the fin here. Just get that out of the way. Take this bracket right here, put it out of the way somewhere, maybe even a bungee cord, get it out of the way. Otherwise it might get sandwiched in between the engine and transmission when you put the new one in. Cat claw, interior trim tool. Get the retainers off the wiring harness, get it loose, out of the way. Disconnect sensors. Just down here on the side of the transmission. Get any sensor you can disconnected. Okay, there's another one right here. These are the speed sensors for the transmission. Get this done and out of the way. There's a range sensor. Push in on the tab, squeeze it, pull back. Needed both hands for that one. There you go. Pop up this metallic harness retainer here. There you go. It's out of the way. And finally, on the other side of the transmission, there's a bulkhead connector. Squeeze the release in and pull it up. Disconnect the oxygen sensor from that same harness and pull the whole harness up into the vehicle. I'm going to go ahead and pop the linkage off the transmission for the shifter cable. There you go. That's out of the way now. Alright, now you can get all your tools out of the cab and go ahead and start working underneath. Okay, you can raise the vehicle up now. Or lift it up on extra tall jack stands. I have successfully slid my tushy underneath the vehicle. As a frame of reference, that's the front. That's where the engine is. Here's the transmission, drive shaft, and rear differential. I'm going to go ahead and drain the transmission. Here's the pan. It's fastened on with 10mm bolts. I'm going to start in the back and loosen these bolts evenly across, one from another. And once you get to about this bolt on each side, you're going to notice that it's going to start leaking. You're going to be able to control the leak by loosening each of these bolts right here, little by little, and it'll slowly increase the leakage coming out. And then when it stops, you can fully remove the pan, take the filter off, throw it away, and put the pan back on. Without further ado, I just hit my head. Ow, hit it again. Start pulling these pan bolts off. All right. Sorry if I'm not getting it all in frame here. There we go. It's a little bit better there. Alright, as you can see, it's loose and it's drained down. Alright, the pan came straight off. Okay, I've got some important information to go over here. Take a close look in your pan. If you see any metal shavings, anything like that, replace your transmission cooler. You can try flushing it if you have a heated flush machine, but I would replace the cooler. The transmission cooler is mounted behind the grill. It's got two hoses going on it, and it's mounted on with bolts. It's easy to get to. But if you're lucky and the transmission just smells a little burnt in the fluid, but there's no debris in here, you can go ahead and take your cooler lines, blow compressed air in on one of the lines, get it down to where there's no more fluid coming out, and then do it to the other line too. Blow it out in reverse. Get every last drop of fluid out. Otherwise, you'll have nasty fluid going into your brand new transmission, and you don't want that. I'll probably end up blowing the air through off camera here, but let's go ahead and get this filter out. Wow, this thing was low. It definitely smells a little bit burnt, so I'm doing the right thing here, replacing the transmission. Alright, at this point, just let it drain for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, whatever you feel like doing. It's not leaking anymore now, so it's good to go. Get your pan back on. Okay, the pan has been fully fastened back on. Next, I'm going to go ahead and remove the 10mm bolts that are holding the shields onto the cross member. See? There's one right there. The head is on top, so you're going to have to ratchet from the top. Likewise, right here and right here. Alright guys, patience is a virtue here. Just take your time, get all 3 bolts off. One eternity later. Okay, the first one's out. Alright guys, second one's out. Third one. All right, let's talk about rear drive shaft bolts, shall we? First of all, make sure that your wheels are off the ground. If you pull the drive shaft off and the wheels are on the ground, you're going to lose park and it's going to roll and run you over and you could get hurt. Make sure the wheels are off the ground. The drive shaft bolts are 12 point, 12 millimeter, kind of like a closed-end wrench. I would not use a closed-end wrench because that would be miserable and take forever. Instead, I would use this, a 12 point, 12 millimeter socket. Half-inch drive, extra long to get around the angle of the drive shaft. It'll go right on and unbolt the bolts. Coming underneath the vehicle here, there's the transmission. There is the manual lever with the range sensor on it. Right now it's in park. It's all the way clockwise. Turn it left 2 notches. 1, 2. Now it's in neutral. You need to do that to get the drive shaft off. Okay, we're in the back. Here's the differential. Here's the drive shaft. Go on ahead and get some chalk or something and mark the drive shaft. Make sure you put it on in the same position to avoid vibrations on the highway. There you go. That will make sure you put it on in the same spot. Hammer. Okay. Get the drive shaft bolts off one by one. Sorry for the lighting. Go ahead and turn the drive shaft by hand. You can also use the rear wheel. Alright, there's your next bolt. Don't know what's wrong with my camera lighting today. Here's the next one. Dropped it. Alright, last one. Alright. Leave it in like that. Make sure the drive shaft's not going to fall down. Okay, you see how it's stuck on here? You can either get a pry bar in here and pop it off on each side. Use some penetrating oil if you have to. Or you can hit it with a hammer right about here carefully. Knock it loose off of here. Keep one of these bolts in so it doesn't fall and hit you in the head. Okay, I hit it with a hammer relatively softly right here. Didn't take much. It's loose. You can get this bolt out. There we go. Use extreme caution when doing this, as you can hurt yourself. Alright, so you can lift up on this and with your other hand, grab the drive shaft and pull straight back. It's just slid right into the back there of the transmission. Something like that. That's the slip yoke. It just splines into the back of the transmission on the output shaft. And you just slide it back in like that when you go back together with it. Don't slip in the fluid. Slip resistant shoes. Alright, I'm back up front here by the transmission. I'm going to go ahead next and take these 13 millimeter bolts off, holding the shield on right here on the bottom of the bell housing. There's a 13 millimeter bolt here and on the other side right there. Take those both those bolts out and the shield will come right off. Both bolts are out and there's the shield. Next you want to go ahead and get your starter out. So here's the transmission right here as a frame of reference. The starter is fastened on with 3 bolts facing this direction. This one on the bottom is a stud. It also has a ground on it. You need to get the nut off. Get that stud on the back of it out. And then second mounting bolt, 13 millimeter, is up here going this direction. The head is on this side. And then I'll show you after the starter's out, but the third hole is further up in here. You will need to get some extensions and flexible head sockets for this. This is the middle one. The one that went right here. That's what I used to get it out. Flex head 13, little extension and a ratchet. There's the second one. That's the top one. I used the same extension and socket, just with a short ratchet. Studs out. This is all I used, just a ratchet and the socket. That's a mid-deep 13. There's the starter. There it is. I just left the wiring connected here. There's a view of the holes for the bolts, just so you know where they're at. That's the top one there, middle one, and then the lower one right there. Okay, I'm now on the driver's side of the transmission in the front. Alright, so take this plug out right here. That'll give access to your torque converter nuts. Just as a frame of reference, that's where it is. It pulls straight out. Alright. I just kind of peel up around the edges and there it is. Alright, I've got a long ratchet here, an 18mm socket on the crankshaft pulley right here. I'm going to turn it over clockwise, the engine, until I feel a torque converter nut line up with that hole that we just created by removing the plug. Keep your finger in there and rotate the engine with the left hand clockwise once again. And when a torque converter nut lines up, remove it with a socket and a ratchet. And after that torque converter nut's out, rotate the engine 90 degrees clockwise, and then the second torque converter nut will line up. Take that one out, and then proceed 2 more times. There's 4 torque converter nuts total. All right, here I am, rotating the engine clockwise. I'm going to take my other hand and feel for the nut. There is a torque converter nut lined up right now. So you're going to get a socket and a ratchet and take it off. 14mm socket is on it. The ratchet on the crank pulley just fell on my shin. That was fun. It's out. It came out. So next I'm going to turn the engine over, like I said, 90 degrees until I feel the next torque converter nut. I'm going to take that out and proceed 2 more times after that and take the 4th one out. I'm just going to edit that out. 4 bell housing bolts are out. Let's come back under here. Locate your cross member. It's right here by the transmission. Take the 2 bolts off, or nuts right here, 18mm. Those are the nuts for the lower transmission mount. Next, you're going to want to remove the cross member. So support the transmission pan with the jack temporarily and come to your cross member. On each side, there's going to be 2 19mm nuts. Take those off with a ratchet, and once both nuts are off, you can knock the stud plate through. Both of these studs are held on with a plate together. So with the nuts off, you'll be able to pop everything out and slide this cross member down. Likewise on the other side, there are also 2 nuts, same situation. Just take those off and you'll be able to slide the cross member out. These may be kind of tight, just be patient with it. Get a long ratchet, 1/2-inch drive. Some pressure on the pan. Both nuts are off. Once again, pump enough pressure up to take pressure off of these studs here. Punch them through with your hand, and that'll free the cross member. Do the same on the other side. Okay, after removing the 2 nuts on the other side and popping the nut plate in, the cross member came right out. So next I'm going to lower the jack down. Slacken it to move it like that. Move it back, get the holes lined up for the transmission mount. Put that in there. Block of wood right here. This is about flush up here with the transmission mount. Nuts. Nuts are tight. Go around the side one more time. Make sure you've got everything disconnected off the side of the transmission. I still need to get the shifter cable off, the bracket, these 2 nuts right here, bolts. Everything looks good on this side. Took it out of that clamp there, a little retainer. Alright, next there's 2 last bell housing bolts right here on the left. And there's going to be some on the right too. Just that one. Take those 3 bolts out. Get these last 2 out here. Those are out and the transmission's free. Put your finger up here, make sure that the torque converter stud is free and not the torque converter's not stuck to the flywheel. If it is, be careful. Rock the transmission back and forth and kind of free it if it's stuck. But this one's fine, so I'm just going to go straight back. I grabbed the tail shaft of the transmission, wiggled it left and right, and pulled back, and it came off. And this is the torque converter stud I'm talking about. If it's stuck to the flywheel right here, then it might slide out of the pump and cause a giant mess on the floor. But this one's fine. You're going to need to tilt the transmission pretty far forward for the tail shaft to clear the exhaust. So keep a hand right here, so make sure the torque converter doesn't slide out. Almost there. This is as far as you're going to need to tilt it right here to clear that and also clear the exhaust. And as you can see, we're all the way out. So I'm going to tilt the jack straight up now. Okay, it's straight up. Come up here and make sure that your dowel pins do not come out with the transmission. That's where one dowel pin goes, and that is where the other one goes. It looks like mine stayed into the back of the engine, which is good. If yours came out with the transmission, install new ones in the back of the engine. When reinstalling the transmission, utilize the dowel pins. Slide them on first and then get the bolt started for the bell housing. That way you know everything's aligned correctly. Okay, you do not have to program anything. You just put this transmission in, fill it up and go. It's got a long dipstick tube, so give it about 10 minutes after you put fluid in to get an accurate reading. That's about everything I can think to say. If you have any questions, let me know below. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out. Please consider liking and subscribing if you liked the video, if it helped you out. All right, have a great day and good luck to you.